Hello, viewers. I hope you all are healthy and hearty. I'm your tax accountant who is going to explain to you some aspects of the GST and HST in Canada. Since GST HST is a complex topic, albeit of interest to many businesses and individuals in Canada, therefore I'm going to explore it in a series of videos that you may understand and relate to your specific situation. In today's video, I'm going to explain the following aspects of GST HST Canada. 1. What is the GST HST? 2. Who pays the GST HST? 3. Who charges the GST HST? 4. What are taxable supplies? 5. What are zero rated supplies? And finally, what are exempt supplies? Don't be afraid of this topic list. I will explain everything in a simple manner so that even a novice can understand it. First question is, what is the GST HST? Well, the Goods and Services Tax, also called GST, is a tax that applies to most supplies of goods and services made in Canada. The GST also applies to many supplies of real property, for example, land, buildings, and interest in such property. And intangible personal property such as trademarks, rights to use a patent, and digitized products downloaded from the internet and paid for individually. You also need to know that the participating provinces harmonized their provincial sales tax with the GST to implement the harmonized sales tax, also called HST, in those provinces. Generally, the HST applies to the same base of property, for example, goods and services, as the GST. GST HST registrants who make taxable supplies other than zero rated supply, that I'm going to explain later, in the participating provinces collect tax at the applicable HST rate. GST HST registrants collect tax at the 5% GST rate on taxable supplies they make in the rest of Canada, other than zero rated supplies. Besides, special rules apply for determining the place of supply. So ask your tax accountant if you're not sure about place of supply for your goods and services. Do remember that the HST rate can vary from one participating province to another. Finally, you must know that both GST and HST are a form of indirect tax that is paid by consumers on their purchases regardless of their income. So it is going to pinch more to poor and middle class persons than a rich guy. The next question is, who pays the GST HST in Canada? Its answer is almost everyone has to pay the GST HST on purchases of taxable supplies of property and services other than zero rated supplies. However, in some situations, Indians, Indian bands, and band empowered entities are relieved of paying the GST HST on taxable supplies. In addition, some groups and organizations, such as certain provincial and territorial governments, do not always pay the GST HST on their purchases. You also need to remember that some individuals, businesses, and organizations are falsely claiming to be exempt from paying the GST HST. In some cases, they may even present a fake exemption card to avoid paying the tax on their purchases. If you do not collect the GST HST from someone who falsely claims to be exempt from paying the GST HST, you still have to account for the tax you should have collected. So in this situation, the best way is, if you're in doubt, call the CRA to confirm the identity of that business or individual. Finally, some provinces exempt farmers, municipalities, and certain businesses from paying the provincial sales tax. The related question is, who charges the GST HST? Well, generally, GST HST registrants have to charge and collect the GST HST on all taxable other than zero rated supplies of property and services they provide to their customers. So it means if you or your business is a GST HST registrant, you are working as an agent of the government or the CRA for collecting the GST HST. However, there are some exceptions for taxable sales of real property that I may explain in another video. Now we look at the list of taxable supplies. You must know that most property and services supplied in or imported into Canada are subject to the GST HST. Some of the examples of taxable supplies may include sales of new housing, sales and rentals of commercial real property, sales and leases of automobiles, car repairs, soft drinks, candies, and potato chips. If you are interested in additional taxable supplies, then this list may also include clothing and footwear, advertising, taxi or commercial ride sharing services, legal and accounting services, franchises, hotel accommodation, barber and hairstylist services. For the list of all applicable GST HST rates, you must seek help of a qualified tax accountant. Now we'll look at the examples of zero rated supplies. A zero rated supply is any goods or services that attracts GST HST at 0%. This means that you do not charge GST HST on these supplies, but you may be eligible to claim input tax credits, that is also called ITC, for the GST HST paid or payable on property and services acquired to provide these supplies. This may result in a large GST HST refund for you. For example, if you're an exporter in Canada, your exports are all zero rated. Anyway, the following are additional examples of supplies taxable at 0%. Basic groceries such as milk, bread, and vegetables. You might have noticed it while buying groceries. Agriculture products such as grain, raw wood, and dried tobacco leaves. Most farm livestock. Most fishery products such as fish for human consumption, prescription drugs, and drug dispensing services. If you are interested in additional zero rate supplies, then this list may also include, for your information, certain medical devices such as hearing aids and artificial teeth, feminine hygiene products, exports. Most goods and services for which you charge and collect the GST HST in Canada are zero rated when exported, as I explained earlier. Many transportation services where the origin or destination is outside Canada. Finally, what are exempt supplies? Some supplies are exempt from the GST HST, that is, no GST HST applies to them. This means that you do not charge the GST HST on these supplies of property and services, and you are generally not entitled to claim input tax credits, also called ITC, on property and services acquired to provide these supplies. Generally, you cannot register for the GST HST if your business provides only exempt supplies. One exception is if you are a listed financial institution resident in Canada. The examples of exempt supplies may include a sale of housing that was last used by an individual as a place of residence, long term rentals of residential accommodation of 1 month or more, and residential condominium fees. Most health, medical, and dental services performed by licensed physicians or dentists for medical reasons. Childcare services, where the primary purpose is to provide care and supervision to children 14 years of age or under for periods of less than 24 hours per day. Most domestic ferry services. Legal aid services. If you are interested in additional exempt supplies, then this list may also include many educational services, such as tutoring services made to an individual in a course that is approved for credit by or that follows a curriculum designated by a school authority. Music lessons. Most services provided by financial institutions, such as lending money or operating deposit accounts. The issuance of insurance policies by an insurer and the arranging for the issuance of insurance policies by insurance agents. Most property and services provided by charities and public institutions. Certain property and services provided by governments, non-profit organizations, municipalities, and other public service bodies, including municipal transit services and standard residential services such as water distribution. If you're looking for an accountant who can provide all related services such as tax filing, bookkeeping, business registration services, preparation of financial statements, etc., all under one umbrella, that too at affordable rates. And you may visit my website at www.pascat.com or send me an email at accountants@pascat.com for further inquiry. If you have liked this video, please do subscribe to my channel for updates and also share and like this video. Thank you for watching.